Very happy to have Schneider Electric with us. Two executives joining us. Let's set the scene. I'm going to talk a lot about their impact on the African continent. But electricity. 780 million people estimated without electricity on the globe. 600 million of those in Africa, about 95 million in Nigeria. Schneider Electric, they're in about 40 countries on the African continent, and they've had an impact, right? So as we said, their footprint across 40 nations in Africa, providing about 25 million Africans with energy access. They've also been involved on the education side, upskilling about 17,000 youth just this year alone, 64,000 trained in English-speaking Africa. So we're going to have a conversation with a couple of those executives right now, and we're very proud to be joined by Walid Sheta, who is a Zone President, Middle East and Africa for Schneider Electric, and also Mr. Georges El Mir, Senior Vice President, Industrial Automation, Middle East and Africa at Schneider. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. I think, Walid, I'll start with you with respect to Africa's energy transition conversation. COP30 is kicking off today in Brazil, near the Amazon. So the energy, climate. So this is a very timely conversation that we're having right now. What does accelerating Africa's role what does it really mean with respect to the conversation around energy transition?
Thank you. Thank you for having us. And to start with, I would like to say that until not far ago, the dilemma of energy versus development was a soft I would say, battle. Today, it's becoming even more crucial as we see that data is more needed and data requires more data centers. You cannot imagine the power that is needed to fuel the data centers. With that, we're also having a lot of tension geopolitically, which means that the sovereignty of states around their own energy becomes very crucial. If you add all of that, the energy is becoming one of the most important battles that each nation has to fight for. We would like to say on that electricity is the most efficient energy of them all. This is why you see the rise for need of electricity, not only in Africa, but all over the world. That means what? Means that in our continent, we need to solve this electricity availability dilemma as fast as we can, because it's coming even more crucial than in the past. What we can do about that is that traditionally you had big grids with big generation plants, a lot of transmission line, heavy industries to fuel. Today you can solve that with a simpler equation, with something called the microgrid, the nanogrid, the mini-grid. All of that is independent power producers, still connected if we want, but they can provide this electricity in a clean manner, this energy, to all the coming challenges that we are going to face.
Fantastic. George, let me come to you. As far as opportunities that exist for digitization and industrial automation to drive efficiency and productivity in Africa, what does that look like? And as far as Schneider's role, I guess, in that as well.
Well, as you know, in Schneider, we are at the intersection of electrification, automation, and digitalization. And the purpose of these three pillars is to achieve higher levels of efficiency and sustainability. And as industries grow and develop on the continent, they strive today, their license to operate runs around the efficiency of their operations and the sustainability of their operations. If you take the biggest refinery in Africa, the biggest refinery in Africa today drives manufacturing execution systems to maximize throughput and to integrate its value chain and reduce its cost. One of the largest continent exporter of LNG today digitizes operations to drive higher level of performance, to drive empowerment for operators to make faster decisions. So we're going back to the data topic, to the data center topic, to the requirement of power, but at the same time, operations optimization and efficiency in driving higher throughput and performance.
All right, now, Walid, let me come back to you. As far as Nigeria's industrial and digital economy is concerned, it's growing. We're seeing improvements. The government is doing its part, private sector like yourself. Can you talk about how you fit in there?
Yeah, so first, the two examples that were raised by Georges are happening in Nigeria, in fact. So Nigeria is spearheading the movement of this transition, but evolution also of being independent on the energy and on the energy transition. I would like to say that you have to understand that until today, the data centers of the world were representing only 1% of all the energy that we consume. And that is no different for the case of Nigeria. It will quadruple in the coming 5 years. So it will go from 1 to 4, which is humongous. It will put a lot of pressure on the grid. Of course, what we believe in is that digitalization will bring a lot of efficiency too. And Nigeria needs that because today, if we want to solve the electricity availability dilemma, we don't only want to, bring electricity to the 100 million people who have it in a scarce way, but also to anticipate the future. That will not happen if we are not more efficient in the consumption of electricity in this country. And guess what? A lot of private sector players, business captains are acting on that. A lot of factories today in Nigeria are already using alternative energies. They are using the concept of microgrid to make sure that they are not only resilient in their production, but also contributing to the efficiency of the energy that we are consuming.
Thank you so much for that. George, let me come to you. What sets Nigeria and, I guess, English-speaking Africa apart in terms of innovation potential from other markets?
Well, let me start with demographics. What about demographics? Nigeria in particular, and in a wider scope, sub-Saharan Africa has a large young population that is digitally native. So that is a first enabler and readiness point for innovation. And the second important element in terms of innovation is that this population comes with real life problems and is looking to overcome, daily challenges on the infrastructure. And these real life problems, are opposed to technology that is enabling innovation at the heart of these challenges and driving innovation on topics that speak up to the population and solve their daily issues. And this is what is really differentiating, I would say, Nigeria and the sub-Saharan African population in terms of innovation readiness, and innovation impact.
Fantastic. Thanks for that. Walid, let me come back to you. Looking ahead, I guess maybe 2030 or beyond, what does success look like for Africa's energy transition? Give us a vision, if you will.
Well, we all believe in the private sector that the continent is so vast that dreaming of a unified grid that will provide electricity with abundance to all the countries of the continent is not realistic. What is realistic is that we would have a lot of connectivity ongoing between the different grids. We would have autonomy of separate grids. That is very important. But second, also, the innovation of the talents that exist in Africa, in my opinion, will bring the solution, as they have already strived in bringing solutions as we speak today. You have to know that a lot of users in Nigeria are using microgrids that are independent. They have developed them. They have used the technologies of companies like ours, but also others, to develop their own ecosystem and to produce. We believe very much into electrification, digitalization because of the efficiency that it comes with it, and as Georges said, the people that will drive this transformation. The new generation, the adoption of AI, it took 70 times less time to the young generation to adopt the AI, the ChatGPT, than the time we took to adopt, the web at the time. 70 times faster. So I believe very much into that demographic aspect, that human aspect of adopting the new technology in solving this energy dilemma.
Fantastic. I'll get both your take on this, but George, it's going to be the same question. Let me start with you. Schneider Electric's key priorities for Africa going forward, 2030 and beyond, and how those key priorities now feed into or bleed into the larger narrative around innovation, digitization for Africa, and so on and so on. What do you guys look? And by the way, I should tell our audience, the two of you are executives with vast experience. I think you were country president for Nigeria, right? Right. And you guys have a lot. So it's really great to have you both. So it's really key to hear executives that have such deep experience on the continent and the Middle East to give a vision as to what the priorities are for the company and for how they fit into the others.
Look, in short, based on the numbers you've shown on the screen before we start, we think that access to energy and electricity is a basic human right. So our ambition is to have 0 people with no access to energy. Okay? That is the macro goal, right? While we continue to drive efficiency and sustainability, our ambition is to develop the African talent to make industries, infrastructures, and the energy sector rise from within. Because at the end of the day, we have spoken about the readiness of the population, the young population, the thrive to innovation. So we have all the elements, right, to write a successful story for the rise of Africa, for the rise of industries in Africa, for the rise of electricity in Africa, and have Africa spearheading innovation in the coming years.
We are very proud to be voted as the most sustainable company in the planet by Time magazine in the past 2 years. But we're also very proud of being the most local of global companies. Wherever we are, and that applies to Nigeria, that applies to all the African countries where we are present, we develop an ecosystem. And you're asking us about how do we see the continent evolving in the eyes of Schneider Electric. We believe the contribution of electricians, system integrators, EPCs, all the contributors to the ecosystem, because our industry of electrification and digitalization, guess what, is not about a big massive factory that you would build somewhere to serve everybody. It is about an ecosystem that will strive with all the inputs of all the contributors. So what do we believe in? Building a strong ecosystem of professionals to electrify and digitalize the industries of Africa and in Nigeria.
Fantastic. So can I just squeeze just one more? Because you just talked about an ecosystem. Can you talk about the partnership with government and how important that is with your quest? Because you're private sector players, you're all over the African continent. How important has it been to have that handshake with the public sector and priorities?
Of course, I have to say that it has been a tremendous ride, and today we are seeing that new dimension. The Africa CEO Forum that keeps every year the CEOs in contact with the regulators every year and the governments. I find that venue fantastic because you see that the governments, all of the government representatives, have shifted their pitch. They have shifted their pitch from only regulating to being partners with the private sector. It's really relieving to see that all the governments are coming to the private sector saying, how can I make your life easier so that you can strive, employ more people? We saw that in the past one in Abidjan, and the coming one will be in Rwanda. We are looking forward to these kind of events where we are going to see even more interaction between the governments and the private sector.
Fantastic. And Arise News have been covering the Jeune Afrique Group. Happy to be at the Africa CEO Forum. Hopefully we'll catch you guys there. Walid Sheta, Zone President, Middle East and Africa, Schneider Electric, and Georges El Mir, Senior Vice President, Industrial Automation, Middle East and Africa for Schneider Electric. Gentlemen, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us. You're doing great work, and we'll catch up with you to see how things improve with the handshake between yourselves, government, and improving the electrification of Africa. Thanks for your time.